What's up, everybody? Welcome into this Monday edition of the Pack-A-Day podcast here on YouTube. I am your host, Andy Herman. The Packers have fallen to 7-3 on the season. No victory Monday today. Very disappointing loss, no two ways about it. A game that Green Bay had every opportunity to win. Did not take care of business, specifically in the second half and to end the ball game when they had opportunities to win. And I know that different people are going to have very different feelings about this game. I'm sure most people are disappointed, obviously. I think some are probably going to want to go a little bit more scorched earth and say, that's it, this isn't a good team. I saw the first fire Matt LaFleur's today, so I guess that honeymoon is over. I guess it's time to fire Matt LaFleur. That was in my mentions. I've seen, obviously, a lot of fire Mike Pettine's. So a lot of emotions after a very tough loss like that. I get that. I understand that. But there was some good. There was certainly some bad. There was a lot of ugly from that game, especially in the second half. And I'll try to hit on a little bit of all of that today. I thought it was interesting, before I kind of go through my good, bad, and ugly from that game, I thought it was interesting if I didn't get a chance to watch either game, either the game against the Jaguars or the game against the Colts these past 2 weeks, just based on the tone and the tenor of the press conferences alone, I would have said that the Packers beat the Jaguars, or lost to the Jaguars and beat the Colts. It was really interesting. Last week, LaFleur was pissed. You could tell he was not happy with the energy, the effort, the emotion. Came out, they played flat. They barely came away with a victory against the Jaguars. And like I said, you could tell that players and coaches were not happy with that performance. It was almost the exact opposite today. Rodgers and LaFleur are pretty upbeat, all things considered. And maybe a part of that is just psychology and, wanting to make sure that the team doesn't get too down after a crushing loss and just wants to move on and continue with the season and stay upbeat. Maybe that's a piece of it. But I came away, intrigued by the response from LaFleur and Rodgers today. Rodgers isn't fake. If there's one thing we know about Rodgers, it's that. If he's thinking something, more often than not, he's going to say it, and he doesn't really beat around things too much. He was adamant that it built in him a lot of confidence, this game against the Colts, what they were able to do in the first half. Both Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers mentioned that this was, arguably one of their best weeks of practice. So, yeah, they came up short. There was an anomaly to an extent of the 4 turnovers. But both Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers were fairly positive after this game, which, again, just a really interesting juxtaposition when you go back and really listen to that Jaguars post-game press conference, where it was a lot more doom and gloom than in a win against the Jaguars than it was in a loss against the Colts. So just an interesting note there. So let's go over some of my good, bad, and ugly for this game. Let's start with the good. Listen, the offense in the first half was really, really great. And I know that there were the mistakes, the mishandled snap on the fumble with Corey Linsley and Aaron Rodgers. That wasn't great. Obviously, the interception by Aaron Rodgers. So there were some mistakes in the first half. But offensively, they were able to move the ball pretty much at will against one of the best defenses, if not the best defense, at least statistically, in football in the Indianapolis Colts. I thought that was ridiculously impressive, putting up 28 points and a half and having that sort of consistency against that Colts defense. There's a lot of positives that you can take away from that. On the defensive side of the ball, 2 turnovers. I thought Raven Green's forced fumble was really great. An impressive play. Packers get the ball back after a tough turnover that the Packers had on offense. And then, you look at, the interception by Christian Kirksey, batted ball by Billy Wynn. And just, again, you love seeing those turnovers come for the Packers defense. A lot of good in that first half. Wasn't perfect. The turnovers, 2 big drives by the Colts on offense. They missed a 50-yard field goal short somehow. Could have easily been a 17-point half for the Colts too. But a lot of positive takeaways from that first half. Really showed a lot of, I don't know if gumption is the right word, but they showed that they weren't, willing to give up at the end. They fought till the very end, had an opportunity to win it in regulation, put a gutsy drive together to get in field goal range, get the easy field goal to go into overtime, got the ball in overtime, and, just had the fumble by MVS. But you can make a strong argument that the Packers were the better team of the two, that they were the better team, didn't come out with the win. But I do think there's some positives that you can take away from this game. Even though things weren't certainly working on all cylinders, there's some positives there. Let's move to the bad. And I know people are looking to put blame, whether it's on Darius Shepard for the kick return, MVS for the fumble at the end. There's the couple turnovers by Rodgers, the fumble along with Corey Linsley, as well as the interception. Obviously a 4th and 1 decision that backfired. Some really rough defense in the second half. There's a lot of blame, a lot of blame. Some iffy time management on that last drive in regulation with the 2 spikes on first down. A lot of blame to go around. A lot of plays that they're going to look back at and wish that they had back in this game. But when I look at this, maybe it's not what I would put the most blame on, but the most concern that I have is with the Packers defense. And the special teams is getting there as well. If this continues to happen where there's turnovers and poor punts and everything like that, Mason Crosby's really the only saving grace for the special teams unit right now. Everything else has gone really, really bad the last few weeks. But the defense as a whole is what I'm most concerned about. And, the offense in the second half, you can talk about the 2 3 and outs. Well, you had, halftime, which is like a 15-20 minute layoff, and then a huge 7-minute drive, which is probably another 15-20 minutes that the Colts actually had the ball of real time. And then the Packers get a 3 and out, which happens from time to time. And then the Colts go on another big drive. Like within like a 45 minute period, the Packers had the ball for 3 plays, and it's really tough to get in a rhythm on offense. And I just thought that like right now the defense, like a 3rd and long is a huge chore for this defense. And I just want to see them be put in better positions, not playing so far off the ball. Like, let them man up and play defense. You're playing scared defense right now. When you're playing all this off-ball coverage, there is a place and a time for off-ball coverage. There's a place and a time for a 3-man rush. There's a place and a time for Preston Smith to cover a tight end in coverage. All of that is within normal reason of play calling within an NFL defense. You can turn on most games and you'll see versions of all of that in some capacity throughout a game. But in specific situations, you got to man up and play defense. And at some point, you've got to be a step ahead of the offense. For too long now, the defense has been a step behind the opposing offenses. They've seen on tape Preston Smith covering tight ends. It was not horrible coverage by Preston Smith, and you're going to get looks like that from time to time. The Colts offense set that up by going with the running back wide, getting Preston Smith matched up one-on-one with a tight end. Phillip Rivers looked the safety off, and he went right back at the tight end one-on-one with Preston Smith because that's the tendency that they've put on tape. They put a lot of 3-man rushes on tape in the red zone. They didn't happen against the Colts, but against the Jaguars, we saw it again. Another touchdown against 3-man rush in the red zone because teams know what is coming. The offenses going against Green Bay's defense have been a step ahead. The playmaking needs to step up. The pressure needs to step up. Everything needs to get better. Aaron Rodgers mentioned at his press conference that if this wants to be a Super Bowl team, it's got to be all 3 phases. And right now, the offense is really darn good. They've sputtered out from time to time, and especially in second halves in recent weeks. But that is a very good offense. The defense is not. The special teams is not. Both of those have to get better. That's where my biggest level of concern is after this game. And then the ugly. Of course, when you have 4 turnovers in a game, that's the ugly. You just cannot win football games, especially on the road, especially against a team like the Colts, when you turn over the ball 4 times. And some of it, you can't have unforced turnovers. The snap exchange between Corey Linsley and Aaron Rodgers. These are my 2 highest graded players on the year. 2 fantastic football players. But you can't have unforced errors where you just give the ball back because you can't handle a normal exchange. That cannot happen. MVS, the fumble at the end. And this is MVS at some point. He's a wild card. You're going to get the ups, you're going to get the downs, but you can't have these downs happen at such inopportune times. That is a crushing play. Darius Shepard, guy's been great in camp. I'm sure he's a great guy, but he hasn't brought anything to the team. The Colts dared him to return. They didn't dare him. They forced him to return because they had no fear of him. They knew if Darius Shepard got the ball and returned the kick that they would get it. They would be able to hold Green Bay inside the 25 rather than just kicking touchbacks. They knew, and I'd have to go back and look, I don't believe they got past the 25 once on a kick return, and most of it was well short. They almost had the play where he got pinned at his own 2-yard line had it not just barely touched the end line. The fumble on the kick return. That is brutal play, and there's nothing that Shepard is doing on offense, on special teams, any of it to make up for the mistakes. That stuff can't happen, and as a GM, you can't have a roster that doesn't have a returner. I get Tyler Ervin is hurt, but you have 53 open roster spots, 16 practice squad spots that you can pull somebody up. You have to have somebody available that can return kicks and return punts that has some level of threat to the opposing team and at least at minimum is not going to turn the ball over. That cannot happen. And then ultimately, you can say, yes, you know what, the Packers had 4 turnovers. It's a bit of an anomaly. They had a lot of heart and effort and energy. This is a team that needs to find ways to win these types of games. Tampa, they came out flat. Minnesota, came out flat after the bye. Jacksonville, they came out flat. They won that game, but not a pretty performance. Now they come out flat in the second half against the Colts when you're holding a 28-14 lead in the second half. All Green Bay probably needed in that second half was one touchdown. One touchdown. That would have got them to 35 points. That probably wins them the game. They get one field goal in the entirety of the second half after scoring 28 in the first half. And part of that, again, is on the defense. It's complementary football. First half, very complimentary. Second half, garbage. Absolute garbage. Special teams sucked, offense sucked, defense sucked. And at some point, it's great to say, it was a good team that the Packers were playing and they fought until the end and a couple of mistakes here or there. You win those games. If you're a great team, you need to win those games. That's what I need to see out of Green Bay from here on out. Not letting the Jake Lutons and the Nick Foleses and the Kirk Cousins throw for 350 yards and be in the game in the fourth quarter, or win games in the case of the Minnesota Vikings. It's a Vikings team that lost to the Cowboys on Sunday. I want to see you kick their ass. I want to see them kick the Bears' ass the rest of these games with Nick Foles at quarterback in the final 2 games. As maybe the worst Bears offense that the Packers will ever face. The worst offense in the league right now besides the Jets. Go out and beat them. Don't let them be in the game late in the fourth quarter. I know these are tough NFL teams, but if you want to be great, go be great. Don't talk about it. Don't, just go out and go through the motions. The time is now. You've got a handful of games left to go out and correct the things that you need to correct, specifically on defense and on special teams, to get to the point where you are ready in the playoffs to contend. Because right now, this team's a very good football team and can beat any team on any Sunday, period. No questions asked. It's a good football team. But if you want to be great, if you legit want to be great, it can't just be a team that holds up well against teams. You have to win at minimum 3 games against the best teams in the league. Divisional round, championship round, Super Bowl. At minimum. And likely now with the loss today, it's much more likely that Green Bay probably has to win 4 of those. And you cannot have the mistakes, the errors, the flat play. It has to be better in all 3 phases, and that's the ugly right now. Is that they haven't found ways to win these games. The Saints is the saving grace right now in this season, the fact that they won that game. Because otherwise, it's mostly a bunch of cupcakes that they won against. The Saints is the one game that you can point to and say, you know what? All right, it's a chance. But again, it's great that they can beat those teams, 1 out of 3 times? Saints, Colts, Bucks. Those are your 3 tough opponents so far this year. Saints, Colts, Bucks, 1 and 2. You got to go 3-0. You got to go 3-0 if you want to be great. So I know we're in the regular season, and I know those are the games that you're still learning and still picking up things, and you want to be great in the postseason. And that's fine, but the time is now, and it's got to get corrected. All right, last thing. We went good, bad, ugly, but very quickly, the most ugly of all are the people who are giving death threats to MVS on Twitter and online after the game. Get real, get a life, get help. You're sick. You're disgusting. There's no room for it. This is a game. This is supposed to be fun. And I know I'm going through and critiquing the game today and things that Green Bay needs to do better. It's still within the realm of fun and entertainment. It should not affect your life on a level where you are making death threats to real human beings on the internet. And people might say, oh, it's just being sensitive. These are just loudmouth breathing idiots on the internet. If you are that deranged that you are making death threats to football players because of a fumble on a football game, who knows how deranged you are to actually make real threats in real life or maybe do something worse. That's a scary situation for a player, and it's got to stop. And I know the people that are probably listening to this are probably not the people that I need to be talking to about this, but seriously, enough is enough. This is a game. It is supposed to be fun. It is supposed to be an escape from all the crappiness that goes on in the world. Don't bring that crappiness into sports. It's not meant for you. If you can't handle a loss, then this game of football, which is meant for entertainment purposes, is simply not meant for you. I'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode of the Pack-A-Day podcast. Check out Perry, Alex, and I wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And until next time, and as always, go Pack Go, carry the G, don't be a dick. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.